I think with all, like I said before, with all the new systems that you have, right? Like this one, was this a little bit easier to manage, right? Because they're systems. So I think the nervous system and all these other systems, you need some sort of background. What I like about the way I chose this book is that the first 2 to 7 or 8 pages is all review stuff on A&P. So I'm going to tell people before we do nervous system to read those 8 pages and make sure you understand that so that we can go right into the diseases. All right? I did the bone stuff up here, but I kind of did that. And it's nice to do the whole review. I know it's nice. But how much? I mean, we spent a good like half an hour, 40 minutes doing all that. But if I don't have to do that, then I won't speed up with all the disease, the new stuff. So if you do that stuff at home, that'll save us a lot of time. Okay? But you need to know that. So you see how I'm applying this stuff, like calcium and osteoclast? I put it all with the diseases. If you review that stuff, and that's what I want tutoring to be about. That's what I want you to review for the A&P, so that you're prepared for this stuff that we're going to talk about. Now, I see a lot of people highlighting books in this class and the other class. Does that work? I don't know. I know it makes colorful books. Okay? It does make colorful books. I wish I could give you a cookie cutter and say, do this way of studying, it's going to work. But everybody in this room, I'm sure there's 10 different ways of studying, and some people do better than others with other things. You can use charts, you could read the book and just read the book, you can make notes, you could do highlighting, you could do flashcards. Everyone has, and what I would normally say is whatever worked for you for A&P 1 and 2, just continue doing what you're doing. But it looks like nothing's working over there, so I'm lost on that. If you ask me what I did, because I didn't learn how to really study until like basically where you are in a 4-year college, the end of our 2nd year, beginning of my 3rd year, I didn't know. I thought you studied, just the bold-faced words and that's it. It's not like that. That's the way high school was. But college, they want you to apply the material. And that's what I wasn't ready for. That's what I was struggling. I wasn't failing, but I was struggling the first 2 years. Why my friend over here was able to do this much but get that much out of it, and I'm doing this much and I'm getting this much out of it, right? And I think a lot of people are in the same situation. So I'll tell you what worked for me, and I carried those same things with medical school, okay? And it worked. It is a lot more work, but it worked for me, all right? A&P should be, and they should have told you this, in A&P, all my students that I take and the other schools or the other teachers in the schools, you've got to put in anywhere from 16 to 20 hours a week on A&P in a normal fall or spring schedule. It jumps up to 40 hours a week if you do it in the summer, because it's cut down from, 15 weeks to 5 weeks. It becomes a full-time job. This is the way pathophysiology is too. 16 to 20 hours. That's just the way it is, okay? This is what worked for me in college, and it worked for me in medical school. I don't know if it works for you, but this is what worked for me. I would read a concept, okay? And that doesn't mean anything. I could highlight it if I wanted to, whatever, but that doesn't mean I know it. I have to read the concept, close the book, and then I paraphrase. I actually write it down in my notes of how. After I read that, now I got to put in my own words, okay? That's hard to do. You might want to go back, and that's hard to do, all right? You're forcing yourself to see if you can do it. Then what I had was 2 other books covering the same material, but they're 2 different authors. So then I would read the concept from that person and see this. Because if I understand it here, then if someone else teaches me it in another book, it's got to make sense to me. And there might be some extra things that they're saying that I want to add in over here. And then I read another book on that concept. And then I was able to do that. I know people are like, well, that's what works for me. A lot of sleepless nights. I realize that. But that's the way I did it. All right? I'm not encouraging you to do it that way, but if that works, work for me. All right? Because you got to see that 3 different books, it's the same material, just a different art book. But they say it differently.
Should we go and buy like 5 copies?
You do whatever you can do whatever you want. I don't know if that's going to work. That's what worked for me. And you're different than me. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's different than me, or it might work for you. Some people might say, I like to just highlight. That's what works. Then do that. Do whatever works. But I don't want you to know that I'm hiding any secrets. That's how I did it, and that's what worked for me. Okay? I did the 20 hours. I had to. That's just the name of the game. Okay? So, with that said, what do people remember? This might help you, too, to gauge what type of person you are. But I've looked at studies about this, and I've done seminars of, this is years ago, but I've done seminars on test-taking strategies and stuff, in general. What do you remember? Well, you only remember 10% of what you read. That's it. Okay? Highlights, that's all you're going to remember. That's it. Okay? So what about the other thing? Well, you do remember 20% of what you hear. You want to audio tape my class? That's fine. But you're only going to get about 20% of what you remember. If you just hear me. If you see me with that, and that's where I'm coming in, but if you just see something, you only remember 30%. But here's the thing. People say, well, I'm visually oriented. No, duh. Everybody's visually oriented. Show me somebody who's just audio oriented. No one. That's what I'm saying. If you see it, you'll remember it. I give a lot of respect for people who are blind because they have to focus. I mean, this is not going with blind people or deaf people because they have to emphasize other things. But you've always heard that saying, I remember your face, I don't remember your name. You never hear it the other way around. I remember your name, I don't remember your face. Because we're visually oriented. Now what I'm doing for you with the videos, well, 50% of what you remember is what you hear and say or see. And that's the video. That's you coming to class. All right? If you just read it, you won't get the highlights. If you hear me, I'm raising my voice, I'm lowering it, hint, hint, that kind of stuff. But I do a lot of animation. And you remember that. I don't do this for the fun of it. I do this because I know it's a slap in the face method. You remember this stuff if I'm doing these crazy things. This is me at 8 o'clock in the morning. This is me at 11 o'clock at night. Okay? So then what's the other stuff? Well, 70% of what you remember is what you discuss. If we had a discussion about this, and it's, you guys are discussing it with me, you'll remember this talk. It's just the name of the game. You discuss it, you'll remember it. Those are where the discussion groups come in. But you got to stay on topic. That's why I'm not too fond of discussion groups. You start talking about birthdays and gone fishing, or Packers, or whatever. You got to stay focused. Otherwise, it is a waste of time. Okay? But they do work. You discuss it. You remember 80% of what you experience. Your own personal experience. If you have asthma, you probably know more about it than me because you're experiencing it. There's something that was really embarrassing that you did 10 years ago, you probably remember everything about it. A certain smell, what you wore, what music was playing, because you experienced it, and it was like a ludicrous thing. You remember that. I try to put these things in here. I do it more with A&P, but I could do it in here too. But I kind of do that. I say, look, we're all inside of a cell. What happens if, or we're in a blood vessel, like little molecules in a blood vessel. If the walls start compressing over here, the ceiling comes down, the floor comes up, we're getting closer and closer together. What happens to the blood pressure? It goes up. Because you're experiencing it. I do a lot of that in my head. I experience it by doing these little scenarios. It works. I mean, it's years of me doing practice, but that's how I do it. So then, what happens to this? 95% of what you remember. That's what I'm doing. That's teaching. Which is what I want you guys to do. Not stand up over here, but can you, after you read that concept, can you teach that concept to your classmates? Can you teach it to your son who's 9 years old? Can you get this hard, all these words, but teach it in a way that he or she can understand? Because if you can, you know the material. And you're going to have to do this as a nurse. I mean, just understanding how Paget's disease, you're going to have to teach. You know, the doctor's going to teach, but you've got to be on the same page as the doctors, too. You know, you don't want to have it, well, the patient wants to see the doctor. The doctor's not going to get there for 6 more hours. If there's something that you can teach them to buy some time, that's better. You're waiting for the doctor to discharge. Well, the patient wants to still see the doctor. But if you can answer a few questions, you're going to have to teach. You have to. If I ask you to teach, let's say, syphilis up here, stand up in front of the whole class, what, you're going to tell me you're not going to know it? You've got to be ready for the questions. So I guarantee, if you can teach it to someone, you know, even split up some of the infections. You know, you want to do syphilis, and someone else does malaria, and then you teach it to each other. Does it take time? Hey, there is no shortcuts. Welcome to academia. Right? Just the way it is. All right? Does that help you a little bit? Okay? Now, how do you take on some of my exam questions? How do you deal with those 1 and 3, 2 and 4?
Those
Right?
make me so mad. I want to throw your exam out the window. That's how mad
I'm cutting down on them. I think on the next exam, there's 50 questions. I have 3. Okay? But I still believe they're important to get in there because you're going to have questions like this on the NCLEX. So I have to give you some thought about this. So let's show you how to take on these things. I mean, you could fight and say you don't like them, but you're going to have them. You're just going to get them. So you might as well, instead of it being thrown at you for the first time in the NCLEX, get a little bit now. You know, just to train yourself with all the different possibilities. So let me give you an example. I'll do an easy one. We had 1, 2, 3, 4. And we had, let's say, immune. Now, like I said on the, you've all got my email, yeah? Right? Okay. I'm going to make them so that there's only going to be 4, on all the multiple choices, there's only going to be 4 choices. Okay? Make it a little bit easier for you guys, a 25% chance. Okay? Even these, I'm cutting down on these, but even that'll be 4 choices. A, B, C, or D. The 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's always going to be a multiple. I took out the one that says 4 only. So you won't have that one. So it'll always be multiple. Okay? So how do you take on this? Okay. Spleen belongs to which system? A&P 1 question. Okay? So what you do is you take this and treat it like a true and false question. All right? That's all you got to do. Treat it like true and false. Are you guys not paying your tuition? You need a new one. All right. So, So treat each one of these as a multiple choice. Now, for my exams, you could bring in highlighters. If that's going to make things easier for you, you want to highlight words like least amount, except. You want to highlight, that's fine. You know, all I really care about is the last page. Okay? That may help you. You may want to even rip off, let's say, the ending of one of it, or if you need a sheet, I'll give you something like that. And if you want to cover all this and you can come down, it's fine. I have no problems with that. Just let me know beforehand. So you treat each one as a true and false. The spleen belongs to the immune system. Don't worry about any of this stuff. True or false? The spleen belongs to the immune system. So then you write over here, true. But you have to be adamant about that. Is that something you're adamant about?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you go to the next one. The spleen belongs to the digestive system. True or false? False. Are you adamant? Some of you are... Okay, well, let's go back to this one over here. Because look, if you know that that is absolutely true, I can throw out this. Right? If you're adamant about that. And if you're adamant that this is absolutely false, you could throw out that one. No, you can't. No, you can't. No, that's okay, that's okay. 1 and 3. You can throw out this and this by just knowing two things there. But you have to be adamant about that. If you weren't adamant, no problem. Not too sure about that, but you go here. Is it part of the lymphatic system? Yes. Now that one, you still don't. So you go to the next one. Is it part of the endocrine system?
No.
No, it doesn't release any hormones. So now the question, see, you narrowed it down from a 25% chance to a 50% chance. Because it could be 1 in 3, or it could be 1, 2, and 3. And that's what you have to do, is you have to bring the chances that you're going to get this right, you have to increase the chances. All this is, if you think about it, is 4 multiple choice questions. The spleen belongs to the immune system. Is that, well, really, true and false? There's a flip of the coin. So I'm able to put, let's say, 4 questions in one with this. If I don't do this, then we're going to have to get like 85 questions to come up with it. But it's not, they're not bad because you could, if you treat each one of these as a separate, it's the same thing as multiple choice. All the following are true except. But this kind of throws people off. Believe me, the way the NCLEX is, they wouldn't have any of this. What they're going to say is, the spleen belongs to which system? I'll check all that apply. So then you could say this and this, and if you leave this one off, it's wrong. The whole thing's wrong. If you add it in, it's wrong. Well, you know what I'm saying, right? You know what I'm saying. So let me say it again. So if you know that, if you check this, that's wrong. If you actually just do this, it's wrong. It has to be precise. That's why I think those are even tougher than what I have over here. At least I'm giving you the choices of these things. Okay? Does that help you with that?